Their dedication and commitment to our children is what makes Deer Lakes a special place. As things begin to return to normal, we must be mindful that many students will have academic deficits. It's our job as a board to allocate resources to overcome those deficits. The pandemic has also been very traumatic for kids. Major events such as graduations, concerts, performances, proms, and athletic seasons were canceled as a result. Schools are already the #1 provider of adolescent mental health services in the country. We need to provide our teachers and staff with professional development on how to recognize signs of mental illness and how to get kids connected with the help they need. If elected to the Deer Lake School Board, I promise you that I will treat every decision the same way I do as a building principal. What's best for kids? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. Came in 15 seconds under time. Well done. Next up for this evening is our candidate, Jeremy Love, for school board. Mr. Love, please take it away.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Jeremy Love. I'm an East Deer resident, and I'm currently running to be school board representative. As a 45-year resident and a second generation of Deer Lake School District, I have a lot vested in the shape of this district and to promote of our students' success. I'm a 1994 graduate of Deer Lakes. I went to Indiana University of Pennsylvania for fine arts. I work as a planner for Waleski Transfer, a large Atlas Van Lines agent, where I work in day-to-day operations from planning everybody all over the United States. I have guys everywhere. Today, I'm involved with the day-to-day operations, problem solving, and customer service. As a father of 4 girls that I have that have or did attend Deer Lakes and graduate, I have some that graduated. I have many good experiences and not so good experiences. I just wanted to be part of fixing some of those issues that make bad experiences and make everyone have a good one. With this year, I know all the teachers have had many of different problems, and I've talked to a lot of parents that have had different issues, and I would like to be here to help everybody fix these issues. I've talked to a lot of parents about the mental health with the children. And being a father with children with mental health issues, that is a big issue with me that I would really like to be on the board to help fix some of the problems we have with that. The bullying issues, to name a few. I would just, anybody that would like to talk or ask me a question, please reach out to me on my Facebook. I'd be more than willing to answer any question anybody has. Thank you for the opportunity tonight to be here, and I appreciate you guys doing this. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Love. Again, with a record time. Our third candidate for school board, Deer Lake School Board, is Mr. Jonathan Majernik. Your turn, sir.
All right, good evening, everyone. My name is Jonathan Majernik, and I am running for the Deer Lake School Board. And I just also wanted to thank Mr. Forbes and the West Deer Democratic Committee for organizing this evening's event. The reason that I'm running for the school board is because I'm grateful for all that our community has given to my family. My wife and I are very proud parents to 3 pretty amazing kids, with 1 in Curtisville, East Union, and the middle school. We've been in the district for the past 10 years, and we're truly welcomed with open arms. Our kids have received a world-class education. They've made so many lifelong friends, and now I really want to pay it forward. I think to be an effective school board member, first and foremost, is to really recognize that it's not about me. My goal will be to ensure that all of our students can tap into their personal strengths and truly flourish. My wife often tells me that one of the reasons she married me was because I was a good listener. I don't know if it's the middle child in me, but I've always been sort of the mediator growing up, finding that common ground. And this skill has helped me in my professional career as well. I've worked at Highmark for the past 20 years, started as a customer service representative, and I'm now the vice president of our national markets, where we support over 170 large employers. My job is really to support them in managing one of their largest expenses, which is their healthcare expense. I take a data-driven approach using a variety of reports, dashboards, and then sit down and develop a comprehensive plan to address their business needs. But it has to start with good data in order to make informed, well-educated decisions. I think this is an area that I can really have a positive impact on the school board in our district and how we gather information, whether it be surveys that are going out with perhaps higher degree of clarity, or when decisions are being made, a higher level of transparency to the community. I also believe that for our kids to receive the best possible education and prepare them for success in life, we need a strong team in place. If I've learned anything over the past year, it's a new level of respect and admiration for all of our teachers, our paraprofessionals, guidance counselors, faculty, administrative staff. These jobs are tough, and we have some of the most incredible folks supporting our kids. And building a stronger team, I think we need a culture that helps to retain all of that talent, again, listen, and really not get in their way, but instead empower them. This allows us to recruit the best of the best into our district because they want to be part of something special. I lead a dynamic team at Highmark, and this is really what I love to do, to support my team, create the best possible environment. But it starts at the top, and the school board sets the tone, they set the culture, and again, I think I can make a positive contribution. I hope my track record as a member of the Deer Lakes community for the past 10 years, whether it's been as a coach, as the vice chair of the West Deer Community Development Corporation, or just my commitment and character will hopefully earn your vote. I'll just close by saying thank you. Thank you for your time and for the opportunity to serve you and your family.
Thank you, Mr. Majernik. And last but not least, for our school board candidates, we have current school board member Christy Minnick. Mrs. Minnick.
Good evening, everybody. Wow, it's just tough to be last after hearing from these great candidates. I wanted to start by thanking the West Deer Democratic Committee for hosting tonight's meet and greet. As mentioned, I'm currently a Deer Lake School Board member and candidate for re-election. I grew up locally in Natrona Heights and graduated from Highlands High School and later received my bachelor's degree also from Indiana University of Pennsylvania in Management Information Systems and have been employed by Westco Distribution for the last 28 years. I've held director level positions in IT, finance, and Lean Six Sigma, and currently manage $2 billion of electronic data processing. We have lived in Deer Lakes for the past 20 years, and like many, first became involved in the school district when my son started kindergarten. I joined LPEP and served on the board of LPEP as treasurer. I enjoyed volunteering for our students and collaborating with the school administrators and other parent volunteers. During the same time, my desire became broader than what I could achieve in LPEP. So after discussing with my husband and some close friends, I decided to run for school board. Leading up to the election, I spent about a year attending agenda and board meetings so I could understand the workings of the board and the types of issues and opportunities in our district. I was fortunate that Clara Selvey and Lisa Merlo, both board members and past presidents, took me under their wings and helped me learn the ropes and endorse my candidacy. Since being elected to the School Lakes Board in 2017, I have served in several different capacities, including chairperson of the Technology, Athletics, Policy Committees, as well as been the Legislative Outreach Chairperson Liaison since my election to the board. In 2019, I attended the PSBA Annual Conference and was our delegate to the Board of Directors meeting. In my role as legislative outreach, I've had the opportunity to work with local, state, and federal leaders to advocate for public education and specifically Deer Lakes. Although I'm proud of my personal accomplishments, I'm more proud of our district's accomplishments in the last several years. During my tenure on the board, we became the 10th district in Pennsylvania and only the second in Allegheny County to earn the Google Reference School status. We received the 2020 D. Richard Wynn Distinguished School Board Award. We climbed the Pittsburgh Business Times listing of schools up 17 positions from 60 to 43 in the past 3 years. We made the U.S. News and World Report ranking of best high schools nationwide. We have enacted 0 tax increases despite a very serious downturn in commercial real estate tax collections. We invested in a Device 101 initiative that allowed us to pivot quickly from in-person to remote learning during the recent pandemic, and we've cultivated labor relations stability and peace. Despite the challenges of the last several years in the pandemic, I'm still as committed and enthusiastic about our district as I was 4 years ago. I feel a calling to serve and help strengthen our public education system, and I can't imagine more deserving students than ours right here in the Deer Lake School District. I believe all children deserve the best public education, no matter their socioeconomic background, their home life, the size of their school district, or their zip code. I feel that my personal and professional experiences would be a valuable addition to the Deer Lake School Board, and I would serve passionately and with fidelity. In wrapping up, in my free time, I love photography, and you can usually find me taking pictures at my son's ice hockey or baseball games. I'm a parent volunteer for both sports and serve as the VP of Business Operations for Deer Lakes Hockey Club. I thank you for your attention, and I would appreciate your support this May. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mrs. Minnick.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Moving to our second grouping of candidates. We will now have a chance to hear from our magisterial district judge candidates. First up is Shay Kraft. Mr. Kraft.
Hello, everybody. My name is Shay Kraft. I'm a candidate for magisterial district judge in our district, which includes West Deer, Hampton, and Richland Townships. First, I'd like to thank the West Deer Democratic Committee for hosting this event, and thank everyone who came to participate and listen up and ask some questions. So a little bit about me. I'm a resident of West Deer Township, married to my wife, Elise. We have 2 children, Zoe, who's 20 months, and Leah, who's 8 months. So needless to say, things are pretty interesting for us at home right now. Education-wise, I completed my undergraduate studies at Temple University in Philadelphia, where I got my Bachelor of Arts in Political Science. Following my time at Temple, I attended law school at the University of Pittsburgh School of Law. During my time in law school, I was able to gain some pretty valuable experience, first as an intern with a federal district judge in the Southern District of Florida in Miami. I also worked as a law clerk in the city law department. I think most importantly, however, I was involved in Pitt Law's Veterans Practicum, where the primary function was to assist veterans with appeals for veterans benefits and to help them work on obtaining discharge upgrades. So that's something I am and was very passionate about. While veterans law does not make up a large portion of my practice as an attorney, and now I am a VA certified attorney, and I'm admitted to practice before the U.S. Court of Appeals for veterans claims. So following law school, I clerked for a Court of Common Pleas judge in Warren County, Pennsylvania. And after that, I wound up in my current position, which is as an associate in a small law firm in Katanning in Armstrong County. Actually the president of the Armstrong County Bar Association. My practice focuses primarily on criminal defense and family law. As a practicing attorney, I've appeared in court in Allegheny and many of the surrounding counties, dealing with things as simple as a custody conciliation and family law cases to handling criminal jury trials. I'm running for magistrate because I'm passionate about equal access to justice. I believe judges should not only be fair and impartial, but should strive to serve with compassion and empathy. A couple of things that I would like to do if elected is I would strive to eliminate cash bail and prevent pretrial incarceration where possible. Additionally, I would aim to work with the Allegheny County Fine and Fee Justice Program to provide alternative methods for people to satisfy their fines and court fees. And I know this is just a little bit about myself at this point, but I look forward to answering more questions from everyone. Thank you for joining us this evening, and I hope to earn your vote on May 18th. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kraft. Next up is incumbent magisterial judge Tom Swan. Judge Swan.
Thank you and good evening, everyone. Thank you, Shannon, Brandon, and members of the West Deer Democratic Committee for your invitation. Again, my name is Tom Swan. I was elected as your magisterial district judge in 2015 after 27 years in the Allegheny County District Attorney's Office. I currently have bipartisan support from members of the Hampton and Richland Democratic Committees, as well as the Hampton, Richland, and West Deer Republican Committees. The first responders from our 4 police departments and volunteers from our fire departments and EMS personnel also support me in my job as your magistrate as well. I am a 28-year resident of our magisterial district, father of 3, and married to my wife, Jacqueline, who's a career public defender in Pittsburgh. A bit about my professional background. First, as a deputy DA, I created and sponsored numerous crime prevention programs and public safety initiatives, all at no cost to taxpayers. And I want to specifically mention 3 of those. First is Project Lifesaver, which I expanded this program to be a county-wide program and trained first responders to track people who wander away from their homes, such as veterans who suffer from PTSD, senior citizens that suffer from dementia, and special needs children. These tracking devices for the wanderers, as well as the tracking equipment used by the first responders, again, were free to the police departments and the families. I also co-produced an autism roll call training video for police to address the growing population of persons on the autism spectrum. This received worldwide recognition and is still currently being viewed on YouTube. And thirdly, another program I established was a cell phone donation program for victims of domestic violence to use free cell phones that have been reprogrammed to call 911 in emergency situations. I've also worked in the courtrooms of Allegheny County for at least 6,000 hours of experience, and I was an adjunct professor at the University of Pittsburgh. As your magistrate, I have presided over 27,000 criminal and civil matters, traffic cases, landlord-tenant cases, truancy cases, and I have learned that my most important qualities as a magistrate, I feel, are my ability to listen and my compassion for the people who appear before me and the people that approach me in the streets, in the neighborhoods, and the various community events that I attend. I've met landlords, school administrators, teachers, students, business owners, contractors, and of course, our residents and families. I think my finger is on the pulse of our community. I was the first magistrate to forfeit an abused dog from an abusive owner and entrust it to a shelter for adoption. I sponsored car seat distribution events with local EMS to provide families with free car seats and booster seats. I've been an instructor for high school moot courts and anti-drug programs in this area, citizen police academies, as well as teaching the nursing staff at UPMC Passman. I was appointed to the Pennsylvania Mental Health and Justice Advisory Committee that meets quarterly in Harrisburg. I've attended dozens of community days handing out safety brochures and criminal justice information for residents. I'm also a St. Barnabas hospice volunteer, a member of the board of directors at the Pine Richland Youth Center, a food bank organizer, a community cleanup volunteer, a COVID-19 plasma blood bank donor. I support the West Deer Canine Golf Outing, Chuck Bellisario's Deer Lakes Community Foundation, as well as the West Deer Volunteer Fire Departments with various gift baskets. And I think that's all I can get in.
Thank you, Judge Swan.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Okay, moving along to our third category of candidates. We have West Deer Township Board of Supervisor candidate, Dr. Jen Mann. Dr. Mann.
Hi, thank you so much for doing this tonight and having me here. My name is Dr. Jennifer Mann. I have been a Deer Lake resident since 1999. I am a teacher at Deer Lakes High School and have been since 2003. We moved here from Hampton after my children started attending school because we wanted the community that was welcoming and also one that where you walk down the street, you knew your neighbors and they welcomed you. And my kids could go to knock on my neighbor's door if they needed help, and the neighbor would know them and feel comfortable and help them. We wanted that home-like feel because we both grew up in areas like that, and we wanted that for our children as well. My children attended Deer Lakes, and they were very successful at Deer Lakes. My eldest daughter has her PhD from University of Pittsburgh, and she is a director of student engagement at Duquesne University. My son has his MBA, and he is currently running dental practices in Shadyside. And my youngest daughter just graduated with her master's in social work, and she is working with addicted mothers. My children are children of service, and I'm a person of service. I have donated countless hours to many activities in school and out of school. And that is one of the reasons why my children, I believe, are so successful, because they have learned that in order to be successful in your career, you have to be a successful human being, and that comes with volunteer. And so when a position became available on the board at the township, I was happy to apply because I want to keep that. I want to foster that family feeling that we have in Deer Lakes. I'm proud to be a Deer Lakes resident. I'm proud of our high school. I'm proud of the people who live here. I'm proud of my students, and I still keep in contact with my students even after they graduate and help them to continue to achieve, because their success is our township's success. And so that is why I want to be part of the board, to keep this township growing and producing fine students and fine residents. In addition to my teaching degree, I have a nursing degree. I also achieved my doctorate of education in professional learning and development from Duquesne University. Brand new to the board this year. As I said, I just sort of stepped in when an opening unfortunately became available after the death of one of the township supervisors. And so I'm just feeling my way. I'm just learning my way. I have great teachers though, so that's good. My goal is to help the senior citizens by keeping taxes low and trying to get some new business in the corridor so that we can help the school get what they need, and also make sure that the people who have worked their whole lives are able to maintain their homes without fear of losing them due to higher taxes. I also want our younger population to feel like this is a place they want to raise their kids as well. And so that's my goal as township supervisor.
Thank you, Dr. Meyer. Okay, now that we have met all of our candidates, we do have some questions. Again, thank you to everyone who has submitted questions already. As Shannon just reminded us in the chat, if you do have any questions for the candidates in this session, feel free to submit them in the chat. But as I indicated, we already have a variety of questions that have already been submitted. So toward that end, I'd like to start to go back to our Deer Lake School Board candidates, and going in reverse order now. Current school board member Christy Minnick, you'll be going first. Each school board candidate will answer this question. I'm happy to repeat the question before the next candidate answers. But here will be our first question, and Mrs. Minnick, you will be up first. You will have a minute and 30 seconds to answer this question.
Okay, thank you.
So putting the challenges of COVID-19 to the side for the moment, where they've been some pretty big challenges, I know. And since we're all hoping it will be much less of an issue by the time your term would begin, what other areas do you think the school board should focus on most in your next term?
You know, that's a great question, Brandon, and thank you for that. Obviously, we've been in unprecedented times under extreme stress and pressure, and I look forward to the day where we can get back to focusing on educating our students, and I do believe that we've turned a corner and we're making progress there. I think right now, our biggest challenge, because nothing else really happens without it, is likely financial challenge. Many folks don't know the bankruptcy situation over at the mills. And just like Dr. Mann, I too am very sensitive to the taxes that our taxpayers pay right now. And not only our senior citizens who are on fixed incomes and have worked all their lives to support this community, but as well as those startup families that we want, those young families and couples coming into the district that we want part of our neighborhoods. So really, we can't fund education. We can't compete for talented teachers. We can't do much else without a financial base. And we are losing that dramatically with the Pittsburgh Mills situation. So what I will continue to do and have supported during my tenure is to look for creative ways outside of taxes to fund these programs. We know the mental health crisis that our children in this country are in right now. We know that there's going to be a 30% reduction in people selecting the teaching profession in the next 5 years. We already have a shortage of people entering the profession through our lack of ability to get substitute teachers in our pipeline. So we will continue to work very hard as a small school district, one that's doesn't have a Route 8 corridor like Hampton does with a lot of businesses. We will continue to need to be very creative in the way that we raise funds. We will continue to look for grant opportunities like we have done in the past. And also, I would add, in my role as a legislative liaison, I've been working closely with Senator Williams and Representative Brooks to look for ways to bring those state dollars into the district and continue to fight for charter school reform, which is bleeding our public school education right now through a very unbalanced and unfair funding formula that hasn't been changed in 2 decades. So really all the other, the mental health, the serving our students, the competing for good teachers, great teachers, adding different services and opportunities and clubs and extracurricular activity is paramount, and we cannot do that with inadequate funding. So thank you for that question.
Thank you, Mrs. Minnick. Next up, Mr. Majernik, would you like me to repeat the question?
No, I think I'm good, Mr. Forbes. Thank you. I appreciate it, though. You know, and it is a great question. I think the post-COVID world is going to look very differently than it did pre-COVID. And different isn't necessarily a bad thing. I think my job as a school board representative, will be to understand the magnitude in order to really prepare our students for this new normal. Workplaces will never be the same. I know for myself, I'm usually in an airport at least once a week traveling, for business. And now I'm on Zoom calls like this for, on a good day, 8 hours, a day. What jobs and industries have become obsolete as a result of the pandemic? What industries and jobs are going to be booming over the next 20 years to begin to prepare our students for success post-graduation. I have the great pleasure to lead an effort in our community with the Township and with the school board in working to create a community development corporation, a CDC. Really with one of our primary goals is supporting our small business community. And through that process I've met some incredible folks. I'd love to, I think, blend, the traditional academics with perhaps a dose of more that practical preparation for this new world. Bring in those business and other leaders into our schools, share their stories. My life personally has been changed by having some, phenomenal mentors in my life. I know we're a country of entrepreneurs and innovators, and I would love for that spirit to be the focus of the school board so that, our kids are positioned to not only succeed, but, change the world.
Thank you, Mr. Majernik. Mr. Love, you are up next. Would you like me to repeat the question?
No, I think I'm good. I think there's a lot of things we're going to need to work on. Education catch-up is going to be one of the main things that I have noticed from talking to a lot of parents. We have a lot of children that aren't going to be prepared to graduate. Kids that were straight A students, and I can speak personally for this, straight A, B students that we're barely getting by. These are 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th graders that they can't pass math class. They're failing English class. We're going to be a year behind in education, and it's nobody's fault. It's just been a rough year. The other issue is the mental health is really weighing on a lot of these children. We're going to have to put a lot of attention and really watch these children, because there's kids that didn't really think that they had problems, or that they had the anxiety, that I'm seeing anxiety just that they don't even want to get out of bed in the morning because there's no normal, there's no schedule, these kids have nothing that they're used to. They wake up, they don't know if they're going to school today. They don't know if they're going to school tomorrow. They don't know if they're going to have a sports game tonight. They don't know if they're sitting in class. I had a nephew 4 times already this year. He's been sitting in class, got pulled out. And so these kids, we need to get them back to some sort of just schedule, and that they will know what they have, they'll know what they're doing. So that falls along with the mental health, and the education. We need to work on that, is my feelings. But thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Love. And finally, Mr. Brown, would you like me to repeat the question?
No, I think I'm good. Well, thank you. I think it's a great question too. And, being a building principal, I deal with a lot of students and work with a lot of students that have mental illness, drug abuse problems. I think what we're going to see after we emerge from this pandemic is that we're going to have to address some of the negative effects of COVID-19. the mental illness that may have gone untreated. One thing that during the pandemic was we rely on our teachers for child line calls. So a lot of kids may have been victims of abuse during the pandemic, and it's gone unreported. So we're going to have kids that are dealing with some trauma and some mental illness, and we're going to have to address those issues and teach our teachers and our staff how to see signs of mental illness and how to get students the help they need. Another thing is working on the deficits that kids are going to have. We know there's going to be academic deficits. Students are right now taking standardized tests, PSSAs and Keystone exams. We didn't have a test last year to really analyze to see where kids were. So we have no idea what those deficits are right now. So we as a board are going to need to allocate resources to after school tutoring and different remedial programs to get these kids back up to grade level. That's going to be a major issue for us. I agree wholeheartedly with something Ms. Minnick said about charter school reform. We have to find a way to get our legislature to listen to our public school districts about charter school reform. The system is very unfair. Charter schools are allowed to have unlimited fund balances. That's why you see a lot of them building these massive centers and performance art buildings and all these things to try to lure kids to them. Whereas public school districts are limited in the fund balance that we can carry from year to year. They have huge surpluses that they're allowed to use to advertise and do all these things that we're not. So we have to find a way to get the legislature to finally listen to public school districts and change the way that charter schools and cyber charter schools are funded. Being fiscally responsible, making good decisions, allocating resources based on data. Those are all things that I think are going to be important as we come out of this pandemic. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. We will come back for questions to our school board candidates, but we're going to jump now to our magisterial district judge candidates for a first question. And we're going in reverse order. So Judge Swan, you will be going first. And here is the question. How would you approach helping troubled youth who must appear in front of you? Is there anything you can do directly or have done in the courtroom?
Well, first of all, the troubled youth, there's a lot of things that I do that do not include setting fines or sending them to some type of incarceration. I always give them a chance, generally, to do some type of community service. I have an agreement with Josh Wiegand at West Deer number 3 that we can send youth over there to clean the fire trucks, clean up after bingo nights. And before COVID, I also had an agreement with the Community Outreach Food Bank over in Hampton, where the people could volunteer for some community service. That shut down during COVID for a while. So I had to resort to kids volunteering at their local churches if they allowed that. But I try not to fine them. I inquire into their finances, whether they have jobs, and if they don't, fining them doesn't do any good. It just keeps these books on the record. Some of my predecessors have had fines open, and I have closed those cases out, hundreds and hundreds of them from years ago. There's no sense in keeping them open. Financial hardship for truancy cases, I almost rarely fine anybody for that. Again, for traffic scuffles and traffic citations, I try to prevent the accumulation of points and license suspensions, which would always end up in the inevitable insurance premium increases or cancellations. Rather than do things like that, I reduce the fines down from moving violations to non-traffic violations or actual warnings and subsequent dismissals. A lot of times I will let the child continue the case for 90 days, and it kind of puts the ball in his court, whereby I say, if you don't have any further negative contact with law enforcement, after 90 days, you will come in here and I will dismiss your case. And that works a lot, almost like a kind of a double secret probation, but it works in a lot of cases. The kids have seen the system in front of me and they don't come back. So those are a lot of the ways I can deal with programs for our youth. I can also send them to drug treatment facilities, after school programs. They can volunteer at the Pine Richland Youth Center where I'm a board member, do those cleanup programs, all things that'll give them some type of responsibility to their community.
Thank you, Judge Swan.
You're welcome.
Mr. Kraft, would you like me to repeat the question?
No, I think I've got it. First of all, I do a good amount of work with children, both through representing them in dependency cases as well as delinquency cases. So as a court-appointed advocate specifically for those kids. Now, I mean, touching on some of the things Judge Swan brought up, I agree in a lot of ways that we should look to address issues that come up with our local youth at the local level through diversionary programs. Now, whether it's something like coming up with alternatives for ways to pay for fines through community service, or finding the resources in the community to make sure that we're addressing these problems here before they get worse. Those are all important things, but what I'd like to stress is I think it's important to keep these problems within our community locally, because I think that's where we're best able to address them. Because with children winding up going through the system, whether it's a delinquency case, it can just be very tough for them. It can be tough for their families. And I think with a little extra work on the part of a district judge, and I know Judge Swan has done a lot of good things in this regard, but it's important to address these issues early on, get them on the right track in order to address and fix these problems, not with the goal of trying to punish them, but to correct and get them moving on a good path that isn't going to harm their future. So diversionary programs are the way to go, I think.
Great, thank you, Mr. Kraft. And now, last but not least, we'll turn to our West Deer Township Supervisor candidate, Dr. Mann. Your question will be, what is your approach to growth in the township, both in terms of commercial as well as residential development?
I think that that's a big concern for a lot of people in our district. The fear of losing the environment which drove most of us here, which brought most of us here, I should say, excuse me. So I think first and foremost that we don't do anything rash, that we come up with a plan, and that the development is organized and will not allow to distract from the beauty that is Deer Lakes. Big yards, not cookie cutter houses, neighborhoods where you can walk and see greenery. We don't want house upon house. And so that is something that has to be very carefully analyzed, although we do have room for growth, which will also help our school district and our other communities about keeping taxes lower. So that is something that, it's a careful balance, if you will. I think that rather than having, a lot of patio homes like we've had so far built in our community, we might want to look at more neighborhoods where people will bring their kids to the school and participate in the rec programs and become active members of our community to keep our community growing. The other thing is initially for businesses, I'd like to see more small businesses grow with locals running their own businesses and developing around here. Which is great with the group that Mr. Marinick formed for the CDC, so that we can get more people in that. Looking at the 910 corridor would probably be our first area that we would like to develop a little bit more, keeping it out of the smaller town feeling in Bairdford and Curtisville, and that is a place where a lot of people drive through on their way to work. It's our only major thoroughfare, really. And so trying to build those with restaurants, coffee shops, things like that, that will allow the people within our community to enjoy those areas and also bring other people in. And so that would be where I think we would start, or where we would hope to start, and then eventually make a long range plan for some of the areas that haven't seen growth in a while, like some of the little mining areas in Bairdford, that we can start working on. And I think we would need a lot of township input. We'd have a lot of, we would need people to come and talk to us and tell us what they want to see. And so that's my plan, or that's, I think, our plan, really, and the township supervisors to move forward on.
Thank you. And just for those who are attending or joining late, if you do have a question you'd like to drop into the chat, it will just be seen by the moderators if you'd like to place a question for a candidate. So we do have some other questions that have been submitted, and I will move to those at this time. Going back to our Deer Lake School Board candidates, this time we're going to flip and go in alphabetical order again. I'd like to ask this question to Mr. Brown first. What prior knowledge do you have on how a school board governs and makes its decisions? And what particular expertise or point of view do you think you bring to the table?
Well, being a school principal, I have attended my fair share of school board meetings to provide information on a wide variety of topics. So I think I have a firm grasp of how a school board operates. I think the most important qualification for a school board member is to listen. They need to absorb a lot of information from administrators, teachers, the community, students, and then take that information and kind of digest it, and then figure out the best course of action that's going to produce the best outcomes for kids. I think our main goal is to make sure that we provide a good product for our students, making sure that our academics are solid, that we have plenty of opportunities for kids for earning college credit while they're still in high school, promoting the arts, athletics, and just making Deer Lakes great by making sure that kids have every opportunity afforded them, while also making sure that we maintain low taxes as much as possible and being fiscally responsible. I think it's important that we make good decisions. I worked for a district that the Auditor General said was the worst financial audit they've ever seen, and that's because some school board members were reluctant to make the difficult decisions that they needed to in order to plan for a major building project. So you have to sometimes make tough decisions, but being fiscally responsible and allocating resources effectively based on where the need is. And that means looking at data and listening to your constituents and major stakeholders.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. Mr. Love, you are next. Would you like me to repeat the question?
No, that's fine. I mean, I'm learning how a school board runs as this whole process is going through. Does anybody really know how the school board works, how the school board runs when they start? It's a learning process. I've talked to a lot of people and that's what they tell you. But I think one main thing that you need to do is not use your personal beliefs to make your decisions. You have to look around the community. You have to talk to the community. You have to actually be out in the community. And that's something that I've noticed not right now, but in the past. People are not in the community. They're not at the shows. They're not at the sporting events. They're not at the school. They don't even have kids in the school. And I think that is a main thing is you should be in the school. You should be there. You should listen to the people. You should talk to the people. You should be around. And I think that is one of the main ways that you can make your decisions. And like Brian said, doing a lot of research, research on a lot of things and listening to, I mean, people that have been on the board before, talk to them and find out what they think and how their opinion goes. Talk to the teachers. I mean, communication is a key part. And I think that is one big thing that really is something that you need to do to be able to be on the school board. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Love. Mr. Majernik, you are up next. Would you like me to repeat the question?
Oh, I know. I think I'm good, Mr. Forbes. Appreciate it, though. Yeah, in preparation, for running for school board, I'm sort of a business guy. I have not had the experience in academia, if you will, but I think it's about finding mentors. So I was able to connect with several current school board members and ask those questions. The time commitment. What are the things that keep them up at night? What have been some of the challenges? We've certainly all sat in over the past year, and I commend all of my fellow candidates because I'm sure we've all sat in the school board meetings over the past year, and I have tremendous respect for Mrs. Minnick and all of her current peers on the school board. It has been challenging, and I'm not sure anyone signed up for that. I'm sure my fellow candidates would agree that most folks, including my family, friends, neighbors, were questioning my judgment of even running for school board because of the challenging past year. And I think it speaks to the character of the 5 candidates that are running and our passion and commitment to serve our community. For me to set a great example, frankly, for my children, and to make a change, to be part of the change. So I really relied on some what I hope will be mentors for me when I do, if I would be elected on the school board, to act as those mentors. And again, to my opening remarks, I suppose, on what I can bring. I take pride in the fact that my family and I are, about 10 years in the district. I think it's important to be able to make decisions that are unbiased and through an objective lens. And, I think I'll be able to bring that to the school board as well.
Thank you, Mr. Majernik. And last but not least, Mrs. Minnick.
Great. Thank you again for the question. Again, another great question. So kind of pointing out the obvious, I think probably my knowledge of how the school board functions, not only in meetings, but also the different committee work, the different legal issues that we are faced with as a public entity. I think those skills in the last 3 years obviously give me a little bit of a head start, but I believe it was Mr. Love who said earlier, nobody has school board experience until they're on the school board. So I think everybody here has exhibited that desire to learn and acquire those skills. I would say, I think probably looking back at where I was, a few years ago, reflecting about why I ran, I still have those ideals. I do think that we are the gem of the North Hills. I don't think there's anything that separates our students, our teachers, our staff, our community members, our volunteers, and most importantly, our students that can't compete. Look at the awards that our students are winning. They're winning technology awards. They're winning speech and debate awards. They're winning National Geographic awards for social and environmental consciousness. They're a stellar musician. So I think my ability to not only collaborate with fellow board members and work with the administration staff, but also reaching beyond. I am waiting for official notice that I've been elected to the Allegheny Intermediate Unit, which is the liaison administrative unit between our district and the state. And I'm extremely excited for the opportunity to find out what other districts are doing, what's working, what's not working, so we don't repeat their mistakes and we can leverage best practices and provide that back to our students and staff. But I think the one thing that's always tough, I think is the toughest as a new school board director candidate is absolutely, we have to listen to our constituents, and our parents are constituents, our students, our staff, our teachers, our employees, but also those that don't have children in the district who are taxpayers. We also have to be mindful of those. So in the last 3 years, my biggest learning is there's no right or wrong decision, right? There's the best decision we can make with the information we have at the time. Is hindsight 2020? Absolutely. But every decision has to be made in a matrix, and the ability to look at things from all different angles and all different perspectives, including not only feedback, but also what federal and state laws mandate that we do, what our collective bargaining agreements hold us to, and those commitments are equally important. So I believe I've demonstrated that in the last 3 years, those abilities. And again, I'm working hard to continue to earn your trust and your vote leading up to May and hopefully the general election in November. So thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Minnick. We're going to return to our magisterial district judicial candidates. And for this second round of questioning, Mr. Kraft, you will go first. The question is, what is your approach to the current bail system? Does it require any reform, and how would you reform it?
Yes, I do believe it requires some reform. So the one great thing about the magisterial district judges is for all criminal cases, the magistrate is the first bail authority. So a district judge is setting bail for every criminal case that comes through their office. Now, cash bail in particular, there's been a lot of talk about cash bail all over. And I think the big reason for that is there have now been plenty of studies and statistics that show that as far as what the function of bail is supposed to be, which is to ensure that people appear for future proceedings after they're done at the magistrate level, and to ensure that they comply with bail conditions. Statistically speaking, there is not, or let's say there's a negligible difference between imposing cash bail as opposed to less restrictive forms of bail with non-monetary conditions, releasing someone on their own recognizance. And, you know, it isn't always the simplest issue. A district judge has to follow the rules of criminal procedure. They have to consider all of the release criteria provided in the rules when they're setting someone's bail. However, I mean, in my practice and my experience, a lot of magistrates that I've appeared before, I don't believe they put too much into considering what the factors are when setting someone's bail. We should be looking at whether or not a person's employed, whether or not they have a family to support, whether or not they can afford to post the bail. And the big reason why the system needs to be reformed is because if there's a monetary condition of bail placed on someone and they cannot post it, they can't afford even a percentage of it to post bond to get out, then they're detained pre-trial, they're incarcerated. These are people who are presumed innocent of charges that are brought against them, and they sit in jail while they're awaiting trial. And that's been another huge thing for COVID. Everyone has a right to a speedy trial, and all over the state, probably all over the country, that right's been suspended. So you have some people who are sitting in jail where the Rule 600 rights, that's the right to a speedy trial, have been suspended, and they're unable to get out for various reasons. But Pennsylvania is the 9th highest pretrial incarceration rate in the country. I believe that someone who's charged with a crime is innocent until proven guilty. And I don't believe that bail should be used as a way to punish them and have them incarcerated pre-trial, because it affects their ability to work on their defense. If someone has a job and they're stuck in jail because they for whatever reason can't afford to post it, then they're going to lose their job. They're going to lose the ability to support any family they have. And it is a destructive cycle that winds up, you can look at the death rate in prisons. You can go out and search that. Most of those people are people who are detained pre-trial. And I think we need to move away from cash bail where possible, you know, as long as it's within the law, but it doesn't seem like there's much of a reason in most cases that we really need it. People are going to show up otherwise. So yes, in short, we need bail reform in our state for sure.
Thank you, Mr. Kraft. Judge Swan, would you like me to repeat the question?
Oh, no, thanks. Good. I mean, I've been in the criminal justice system since basically the mid 80s. And back then the bail system was a lot worse than it is now. I think over the years it's been improved somewhat, but like any system, there's always room for more improvement, more training for district judges. But the bail system, and at least in Allegheny County, I can answer to, is a fairly sophisticated process. And as Mr. Kraft said, bail is used to ensure the person's appearance at court proceedings. However, the state constitution was amended not too long ago to permit pretrial detention, and that's used to protect our community from dangerous offenders. Granted, a person has not been convicted when they've been accused and they go to jail for whatever reason and they can't make bond, but the process for setting bail and establishing bail is a pretty severe process down in arraignment court where most of the bonds are set. And I've done at least 1,000 of those down in night court. We have a public defender that steps in on a lot of the cases with her recommendations or his recommendations, which we generally follow in a lot of cases. We have pretrial services that provide for virtually all of our offenders who come before us with their prior criminal history, their prior violent criminal history, plus prior failure to appears, pending criminal cases, some for the same domestic violence victim, and current probation and parole violators, for us to make common sense decisions as to whether the bail should be on their own recognizance or non-monetary with conditions, which is the one I use most often. But you still have to deny bail with pretrial detention when you have dangerous offenders, because you have to understand we are there to protect the community who has been maybe severely injured. I have numerous cases involving domestic violence individuals where they were beaten severely. I had one the other day where the offender beat up one of his girlfriends, ripped part of her hair out, punched her, broke her jaw, then left and went across the other side of the county and continued to beat up another one of his girlfriends. That showed a pattern of conduct that I determined he was unsafe to go back into the community, and I did not give him any bail. I issued pretrial detention to protect those two girls from further violence. We've had other cases where the same victim, where I know he smashed one girl's head in one of our cases in with an iron stove, almost killed the girl. She got out. Bond eventually was given to him. He got out and almost killed her a second time. I set bail again that high on that one because our pretrial detention system in the computer wasn't working, but I did not want this person out on the street because I don't want that person's body on my watch. And that's why a lot of times bail has to be set to protect our community. And that's why the Constitution was amended for that reason, to do that. I understand that persons that are have not been found guilty don't like to stay in jail. We try to let as many of them out as we can, especially if they have jobs or are trying to do something positive for the community. But if they're demonstrating they have existing warrants or prior situations where they're on bond or parole from other judges, we're not supposed to let them out if the other judges have detainers on them. That's the judge that's above us. And if those detainers are on those people, we can't touch that. There's other circumstances where sometimes attorneys will want bond to be set so that that offender can use that time on bond to credit for their case down the road, to give them less time when they are sentenced. I mean, there's a lot of reasons you have to have bond. And most predominantly, those are to protect the people who have not committed crimes and who have been victims by this person on more than one occasion.
Thank you, Judge Swan. Moving to our West Deer Township Board of Supervisor candidate, Dr. Mann. I'd like to ask you this question. What are your ideas to improve the quality of life for West Deer residents?
Well, I think there's a lot of things that we can do and a lot of things that I wish we could do that we just can't. For example, I'd love to be able to say we just won't collect taxes, which a lot of people would appreciate, but we can't do that. I know that I really believe that the people in Deer Lakes, in our community, want to keep the small town welcoming atmosphere that we have. And so in order to do that, I would really try to work towards keeping new buildings, new construction, so that the distances were far apart, that we still had greenery, we still had green space, we still had things like that. I'd also, the board is very focused on fixing the ball fields and the activities for young people, to try to pull young people in and to try to keep these people with, young families with small children, so that they have something to do, and encourage more young people to move into our community. And again, we're working on that. I also believe that we need to have more interaction with our school children and our elderly within our community. I think that we can make great connections with young people and the elderly within our community to help them maintain their yards, shovel snow, but also to be companions, to communicate, to interact. The elderly have so much to offer in terms of history and knowledge and understanding, and it would be great to find a way to have a community center where those kids and the elderly can come together and to work with each other, and that would make the community a much nicer place to live as well. People won't feel so isolated and so alone. I would also like to have ways to help reduce taxes for senior citizens, so that, and the board has already done this, and so to continue working on that to help them, again, maintain their homes and not worry about the tax burden. I also would love to see us working on some more community activities, which our township supervisors who are currently there have already started to do. So working on more committees to have more activities. I know they're changing the fall festival. It'll be a fall festival now instead of community days. And we're working on getting some farmers markets into place, and just trying to have that community feel grow and develop. And the township supervisors who were there prior to me have already started that. And I would like to take that then and just run with it and try to get some more ideas. Again, opening it up to the community to give us some suggestions, to offer some advice, to encourage them to come to meetings and voice their opinions of what they see that they need. And if you feel listened to and you feel important in your community, then that makes it a much better place to live.
Thank you, Dr. Mann. Well, our hour is growing late. I do have some concluding remarks, but before I do that, I'd like to give each of our candidates a moment for some concluding remarks as well. We'll start again with the school board members. You will each have 1 minute to sum up your candidacy and say what you would like to say in closing to our citizens. So again, we'll flip the script here and I believe go with Mrs. Minnick to start this.
Sorry, I got a pop up on my screen. So again, I would just want to thank the committee and everybody who took the time out tonight of their schedules to invest it in learning about the candidates this evening, and especially from a school board perspective, investing the time to strengthen the public education system here in the Deer Lake School District for our students. I hope that in the last 3 years during my first tenure here on the board, you've had a chance to attend some of the meetings. Again, like I said, there's no right or wrong answers. Everything is the best we can do at the time with the information we're provided. But when I do have a dissenting opinion from my fellow school board members, I try to respect the sunshine law and ensure that I communicate why I vote the way I do on either controversial topics or topics where I may be the only dissenting voice on a particular vote. So I would love to see all these faces on Zoom tonight attend the school board meetings when they can. There's 2 opportunities a month, the second and third Tuesdays. And I would love for you to be part of that process. There's a lot of information provided at those meetings that I think will shed light on some of the topics and the obstacles and opportunities that we're faced with. And I really commend those that are running for any office right now. Our positions are unpaid. We do it for the love of it, for the civic duty of it, and believe that we all do it with our true north being what's in the best interest of our students, our employees, and also our taxpayers. So again, I bid you a good night, and I appreciate your patience tonight. And again, I would love your support come May. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Minnick. Mr. Majernik.
Thank you, Mr. Forbes. I would just close by sharing every morning when I drop my kids off at school, I have sort of a mantra, and I tell them to work hard, to try your best, to be kind, and to be a leader. And then they follow up saying, and be a Majernik. And it's just sort of who we are, what I try to instill in my children, and what I hope I can bring to Deer Lakes and to the school board. Hopefully a level-headed style of leadership. As we've all shared today, I certainly am transparent about the fact I have much to learn about being a school board representative, but I am committed and passionate about the community that we're a part of. Again, grateful for Mr. Forbes and the West Deer Democratic Committee for this evening. I've learned a tremendous amount, and it's, I see many of the signs around town, and it's been really rewarding to see my fellow candidates as well. So I think we are all in great hands, and again, appreciate your support, and hopefully vote come May and the general election in November.
Thank you, Mr. Majernik. Mr. Love.
Okay, thank you. I want to thank everybody again for doing this. And I want to say I haven't been nervous like this in a long time. Anybody that knows me knows I never stumble over words. I see Jen laughing. So I just want to say, I mean, you have any questions, stop me out at baseball, stop me out at football, stop me wherever you want. I'll be more than happy to answer anything you want. Message me, call me. I just would like your support in May. Just to conclude, I appreciate everything. And like I said, I'm a little nervous tonight. That's not usual for me. And I've never lost some words, believe me. So any questions, I would be more than willing to talk to anybody and voice my opinion. And I wish all the candidates good luck. And it was nice meeting some of them tonight, even if it was this way. And thank you, everybody, and look to see you soon.
Thank you, Mr. Love. And last but not least, for school board candidates, Mr. Brown.
Well, first, I'd like to start off just by thanking the committee for putting this together. This has been awesome. I'd also like to say to my fellow candidates for Deer Lake School Board that are here tonight, I would be proud to serve with Jeremy or Christy or Jonathan. I think we're all very passionate about what we do, and we all want to see the best for our community. So really excited to be running for this office with them. There's going to be 3 new candidates on the Deer Lake School Board. It would be so awesome to one day see as many candidates for school board as there are for Commonwealth Court and the Court of Common Pleas, where you have a whole list of candidates. So it's great. A lot of times whenever people hear you're running for school board, they look at you with a cross eye or something like that. Say, why would you ever want to do that? Well, I think there's no greater job than to serve our youth. There's a plaque in my office, a quote by Krista McAuliffe that says, "I touch the future I teach." I'm very passionate about what I do. I love being an educator. I love being a school leader. I love working with kids. I like working with kids that are traumatized, kids with mental health issues, kids with drug and alcohol abuse problems. I've worked up until recently at Auberly with students that are adjudicated, students in an institution. So really passionate about kids and doing what's best for them and making sure that they have great experiences. So just looking forward to the opportunity. I would be delighted to serve the community as a member of the board, and I hope you'll consider me on May 18th.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. For our magisterial district judicial candidates, Judge Swan.
Yeah, I would like to basically continue to protect our communities, our residents, our pets. I'm a big supporter of protecting our animals. A lot of horses suffer from abuse, things like that. We get all kinds of cases like that out here. Support our first responders, continue to be compassionate with those who appear before me, relatively lenient on traffic citations where it is appropriate. I'd rather see a lot of the cases that I deal with juveniles and some people I'd like to continue to see them stay out here with me where we can do programs here and not send them down to the Court of Common Pleas where they can get further traumatized and lost in the criminal justice system down there. I think we can do more for them a lot of times out here. And when that works, generally their cases will be dismissed out here and they're all for the better. I have noticed that when people leave my courtroom, I feel that they're happy that they've had their day in court, and that's because I've listened to them and given them respect. And I've had dozens of them send me letters, talk to me saying, thank you for giving us our day in court and for listening to us. We greatly appreciate it. Even though you didn't decide in our favor, you were very respectful. And to me, that's a testament that I am doing a fair and impartial job and doing it well.
Thank you, Judge Swan. Mr. Kraft.
Thank you. Just once again, I want to thank everybody for coming out, listening to all of the candidates. It's an honor to share the forum with all of you, especially Judge Swan. Deciding to run for office is it's an interesting thing. I mean, we've had a very tough year. A lot of people have this past year. And especially after going through this past general election that we all got to participate in and witness, it's become very clear to me that we need people in public office, especially locally, who are going to be compassionate, they're going to be reasonable, people who can be kind. It's not difficult to be kind in life. And I think, especially in the role of a judge, you're dealing with people who a lot of them, it's their first time ever interacting with our judicial system. I think kindness, practicing empathy, trying to understand where people come from and why they find themselves in court is incredibly important. Of course, magistrates, they have a duty, and yes, it's their job to ensure that the community that they live in is safe. I mean, that's why we have local judges. We have judges that are involved in our communities, that they understand our communities. They're in the best position to make decisions, like decisions on bail, to try to find solutions, reasonable solutions for local disputes, especially in things like landlord-tenant cases. Now, there's a lot of other topics that we didn't cover tonight that we could certainly get into. I'd be happy to answer any other questions that voters might have directly. You can contact me through my Facebook page, Shay Craft for Magistrate. I'd love to meet more of you in person, and I'm going to humbly ask for your votes on May 18th, and good luck to all the other candidates. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kraft. And last, our Westier Township Supervisor candidate, Dr. Jen Mann.
I'd like to thank everyone for attending and giving us this time to listen to our thoughts and why we're running. I've had the very pleasant experience to work with some amazing people on the board for a very short time, but I've gotten to see their dedication and their passion for our township. And I mean, you know, Bev dressed up in a bunny suit and, you know, drove around on a truck. Just people who truly care about our community. And I want to be a part of that. And I feel that I can be helpful with that, and I can carry on some of the things that they've begun. And I hope that we can get more people to want to serve on the Township Board of Supervisors and on the school board, and just become an active member in the community to make it better for everyone. So thank you very much. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Dr. Mann. And before I conclude, I do want to mention Dr. Mann mentioned Bev Jordan. Bev Jordan is also up for re-election for the Township Board of Supervisors. She is a Republican candidate, but I have learned that she is running a write-in campaign on the Democratic side. If you live in West Deer and you don't know Miss Jordan, you probably haven't left your house in a while. She's been very involved in the community, and I encourage you to go on her Facebook page to learn more about her candidacy, and she's very active there. Most of you probably know that. So again, a big thank you to all of our candidates. Thank each of you for coming out, taking the time to speak in front of the voters. It is virtual, but it's still made an impact, and we appreciate your sharing your vision with the community. Also, I want to particularly thank members of our West Deer Democratic Committee for helping me put on tonight's program. You met our social media expert, Shannon Waldschmidt, earlier in the evening. Our treasurer, Gary Torek, also in attendance today. He's a former school board member. Our secretary, Larry Neidig, was crucial in setting up the Zoom and running it. He's a current school board member. And a big thank you to each one of you who've attended tonight, taking the time to engage with your local government. The West Deer Democratic Committee is a committee that of people of like-minded individuals. We want to promote civic life, responsible citizenship, and good government in West Deer Township, Deer Lake School Board, and of course our magisterial judicial district. This is all, you know, from Bairdford and Russellton to Curtisville and Cedar Ridge. This is our community, and obviously that stretches to Fraser and East Deer as well for school board members. If you're interested in being involved in our local Democratic Committee, please look us up on Facebook or on our website. We meet on the second Monday of the month. Right now via Zoom because of the pandemic, but hopefully we'll be able to meet in person not too long in the future. We do things for our West Deer Fall Festival. We do things for the community, and of course we are very involved in our local elections and involved in government at the municipal, school board, and judicial level. So please feel free to reach out to us on our website or on Facebook if you'd like to learn more about these meetings. Again, my name is Brandon Forbes. I'm the chair of the West Deer Democratic Committee, as well as serving on our Township Board of Supervisors with Dr. Jen Mann, who I would give a plug to, as well as Bev Jordan, who have been great colleagues. So thank you again to all of you this evening. Feel free to reach out to us with any other questions, and I hope you all have a good evening.